Next, we're going to take a look at working with some exponents and some radicals. The first thing we're going to take a look at is simplifying this radical. We've got a fourth root here, which is a little bit more difficult to deal with than something like a square root. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and write everything out in terms of fourth roots. Now, the number is probably the most difficult to think about in terms of what is a fourth root. And I'm just going to remind myself over here, I shouldn't have to go that high. 2 to the fourth is 16. And I'm going to think to myself, does that go into 162 evenly? And the answer would be no, you get a decimal. Let's try 3 to the fourth. 3 to the fourth is 81. So I'm going to try that. Does that go into 162 evenly? And the answer is yes. 81 times 2 is 162. Now I'm going to show you what we're going to do with that in just a minute in terms of simplifying, but I'm trying to get a perfect fourth root there. Then I'm going to look at the letters. And when I look at the letters, what I want to do is I want to write them in terms of fourth roots or exponents of 1. So I'm going to, or exponents of 4, sorry. I'm going to pull out a 4 and say a to the fourth, and then what's left over is a to the 1. And I'll show you why we're doing this in just a moment. But I want 5 a's and I want to break them up so I have multiples of 4 together. The same here, I'm going to have to extend my root a little bit here. B to the ninth, well, I could pull out 8 of them, 8's a multiple of 4, and be left with 1. And then C to the 15th, well, the nicest multiple of 4 I can work with, I think, is going to be 12, which means there are then 3 of them left over. Now what we have are what we call our perfect fourth roots, and these are the perfect fourth roots, and they're going to be what gets to come outside of this radical. And when we move them outside of the radical, we're going to take the fourth root of them. Well, the fourth root of 81 is 3, because 3 to the fourth is 81, so that's going to come out as a 3. When I pull the a to the fourth out, I'm going to take that exponent and divide it by 4, and it's going to be 1. Same thing with the b. I'm going to take that out, I'm going to divide it by 4, and it's going to be 2. Same thing with the c. I'm going to divide that by 4, and it's going to be 3. I know that 2 is kind of hard to say. So I've taken out this, I've taken out this, I've taken out this, and I've taken out this. And so I'm going to write what's left. I'm going to hope I can fit it in there. 2a, b, c to the third. And that is going to be my simplest terms. So the key to that is to look for things that have perfect fourth roots. And perfect fourth roots are kind of a multiple of 4. Okay, now let's take a look at simplifying this equation here, this fraction. There's a couple ways you can do this, but I'm going to remember that anytime I see a 1/2, that's really, the exponent is really 1/2 and a 5. 5 halves, but I can pull the 1/2 out. And I'm going to want to pull the 1/2 out because pulling the 1/2 out is going to be taking the square root of the top and the bottom. So once I take the square root of the bottom, I'm going to have 7 over 10, which I am then going to raise to the 5th power. I took out that 1/2 in the fraction by taking the square root of the top and the bottom, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to raise the top and the bottom to the 5th power. Now it is going to be a big number, and that's okay. Like on the top I have 16,807, and on the bottom I have 100,000. So perfectly fine to have those big numbers. Just remember to deal with the fraction part of the exponent first by taking the root. Whatever the bottom number is, that's what root you're taking. This was a 2, so I'm taking the square root. If it had been a 3, I'd go ahead and take the cubed root. So I'm going to take the roots of the top and the bottom first by the bottom number of that fraction, and then I'm going to raise the top and the bottom to that number that's left on the top of the fraction to get my fraction done out in expanded form. All right, everybody, happy explaining your brain this week.